Monday evening, everyone. Since Harvey brought all that tremendous rainfall to Texas and also wind damage, but a lot of rainfall. That was the problem with Harvey. A lot of folks are keeping an eye on Irma. Irma is a stronger hurricane out in the Atlantic. Here's the picture. You can see a nice developed eye. This is an image that switches from a higher res visible to the infrared, and yeah, you can see the eye there. It is now just to the west of 55 longitude. It is still out. It is approaching the islands of the Eastern Caribbean and skirting by, probably going to skirt by north of them. So here's the latest 8 o'clock advisory from the National Hurricane Center. Sustained winds still 140 miles per hour. It did start to pick up movement a little bit. Now at 13 miles per hour. It is a major hurricane. It is a Category 4 storm. It is predicted to go by the northern islands, then just north of Puerto Rico. Now, I will tell you, that's a good place to be, because remember, the flow around a hurricane is counterclockwise. So, in that case, the strongest part of the storm would actually be on the other side of Puerto Rico. So that would be good news. Good news for the Dominican Republic, but it keeps it out over the water. Though, keep in mind the whole zone of uncertainty, the whole cone of uncertainty. Don't focus just on those icons. Focus on that whole area. But right now it does look like it'll pass north of Puerto Rico, which puts Puerto Rico in a little better shape than if it were to pass to our south. And now, if it would pass to the south of Puerto Rico, it may hit Dominican Republic, and the land would influence a little bit. So there's still a lot of questions on it. The Hurricane Center still keeps this as a major hurricane, and then close to the Cuba coastline at 2 o'clock on Saturday. And then we have to keep an eye out for whether a trough in the middle of the United States picks it up and moves it northward. Right now, there is good indications that will happen. The government has put out extra soundings, weather balloons out to take a look at the in between the 0 and 12Z observations to keep an eye on it. That trough is just as important as some of the computer models for the hurricane right now. Here is the probability of winds over 58 miles per hour. And again, the strongest winds are going to be just north of the track as it goes by Puerto Rico. And again, Puerto Rico is struggling financially. So they do not need a disaster. And then eventually, toward the end here, by 2 o'clock Saturday, there are some indications that some stronger winds could be approaching parts of Florida, but this is going to be bad for the Bahamas too. So let's go ahead and take a look at some of the spaghetti plots of this. And this here is from the National Hurricane Center and their plots and their hurricane models. And you can see there's very good consensus of moving north of Puerto Rico and the Dominican, and then to Cuba, and then bringing it up. Now, there are still some runs that try to take it out over the Atlantic. There are some that try to bring it inland. So that's one spaghetti plot. Let's go ahead and take a look at another. Now, this is the Canadian model. And, you know, I'm not taking it totally off the table either. The trough should pick it up, but if the connection is missed, then it can go out to the Gulf of Mexico. That's not a good scenario either, but that is something we're keeping an eye on. So anything from east of the Atlantic coastline to the Gulf of Mexico possibility by the weekend. I do agree with the Canadian for that. And here is the GEFS. This is an ensemble, and again, you know, one member, and this is the operational run, actually just takes it bloop right out, makes a turn hard right, and you'll see that in the model here. But still, a pretty good consensus that it's out. Avoids the islands for a while, and then we have to watch as it gets toward the coast of Cuba. Let's go ahead and take a look at the models, and this is the GFS, and we have a front that moves through. You can see some rainfall there. This is Wednesday morning. We still have some rainfall. Another front moves through Wednesday night, and that brings some cool air into our neck of the woods. But there is Irma. There she is. And the GFS takes it across Bahamas, and this is Friday evening. Now I want to see, there's the old run, the new run. So the new run did speed it up a little bit, and then takes it and keeps it off the Cuba coastline. Look at that pressure, and the water's pretty warm. And this is Sunday morning. It's got a center pressure of 891, the old run. 893. So it got a little faster and it got a little stronger from the 12 to 18 Zulu run. And this brings up the storm up through Florida. And remember, the worst of the storm, once it makes the turn, is going to be right of the storm. So this would keep the worst winds right on the coast, the east coast of Florida, and out over the ocean. That would be good news for a lot of the population in western Florida, even to the Orlando area. Everything would be on the other side. It will bring a tremendous amount of rainfall, but and then it takes it on shore, and that actually can cause some high flooding along the coast near Hilton Head, South Carolina, over to the Charleston area and parts of Georgia. Now, I will tell you, that's a tough track. You know, the models try to take Matthew up and try to bring it inland there. It doesn't happen very often. So, and this is still a long way off. A lot of folks are asking for here in central Pennsylvania. You notice how it just breaks it apart and really never brings any rainfall up here. Another front moves through and sweeps everything out. The interesting thing is once it gets swept out, it pulls some very cold air down from Canada. So that means 2 more shots of cool air here in the beginning part of September, and then the GFS trying to bring someone else. Now let's keep in mind this is way down the road out there in the Atlantic, but we're concentrating on Irma at this point in time. So let's go ahead and take a look at the European model, and you can see here there's that fronts that move through us. Let me move this forward in time. Here we go. Now this is Saturday evening. This is Sunday morning. So it takes a 929 millibar low. The old run was stronger but farther to the south. This one is a little farther to the north. And again, both models bringing it along very quickly, bringing it up through eastern Florida. These are just 2 models. And then it does an interesting thing. It tries to bring it out over the water again and re-enter it. And this is not something that happens often. If you go with history, it doesn't happen often. But again, re-enters it over South Carolina near Hilton Head and would be very devastating for the Charleston area. Just spent some time in Charleston. So that would be pretty bad, the flooding around there. And then the European takes it up. And if you notice, the European just brings the remnants off to the west. And neither model bring a lot of rainfall here. Let me go ahead and show you let me move me a little bit here. Let me go ahead and show you total precipitation through 10 days. And you can see that tremendous amount of rainfall there in the European. And it fizzles out. And when you're talking about 10-day rain amounts between 0.7 and 1.5 inches, that's really not a lot. And a lot of that's coming with the fronts ahead of time. Let me go ahead and back up, and we're going to go ahead and take a look at the total precip with the GFS. Again, heavy rainfall, and then really takes it out and doesn't really bring as much to our area. But that would be a tremendous amount of rainfall, but the worst would be spared. So what I'm watching is we'll have to keep an eye on where it moves and when that connection makes with that upper air trough. And that is important because when the connection is made, that's when the system will start to come northward. If the connection is missed, then we bring back the possibility of out over the Gulf of Mexico. So that's the latest on Irma. I will keep you up to date, and I'll have the latest advisory tonight on WTAJ News at 11.